Okay, action steps. David.
First action step, based on what you've seen, go ask your pastor, very humbly, very nice, don't get confrontational, don't get in his face, say, Pastor, would you consider doing a sermon on Islam, on abortion, on cloning? I don't know, would you do some on Christian history? What's the history of the country? Tell me about government. Take one of those 12 items, ask your preacher to preach on that, and he's going to look at you and say, I don't know if I can do that, which is action step number 2. Take the survey, take the poll, and give your pastor a copy. We have it on the front page at wallbuilders.com. You can click on it, you can download it, say, Pastor, maybe look at this. If he sees 90% of the people want it, he might get a little backbone because he's been taught. And the trouble is he's been taught in seminary and been beat up by the media and by, like Kennedy on CNN saying you don't talk about this stuff. Culture's pushed him the other way. That's the second thing. The third thing to do, we were talking about this, is get a group to go with you. You actually have a letter at glennbeck.com that you can give to your pastor.
Look, we're going to put some stuff up at glennbeck.com. In fact, we've posted it this afternoon so you can have it. But I want to be positive. You know, the fourth step is find a new church. We'll get to another show and do the fourth step. This step is let's be positive. We have the information. Most likely, your pastor, priest, rabbi doesn't know this.
That's right.
Maybe feels alone, feels like, man, I should be preaching these things, but nobody's going to support me on that. And nobody wants to hear that, because I was shocked by that.
And let me add something else too. Most of the things that George put up there, those subtopics, most of the pastors won't have a clue what any of those deal with. And so what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to learn themselves before they can talk about it. John Wesley would not allow any preacher in America to be a Methodist unless he read 3 books a week. You had to read 3 books a week so that your knowledge was out there so you could talk about it. We don't do that. And so understand it may take a little time, but we can get there.
Okay, so the first is ask them to talk about these things, then show them the information that they probably don't have. Then, because they're probably going to be timid and they're afraid. They're afraid. You need to show them numbers. You need to go take this letter that we have. It's just a sample letter. Write it any way you want. But we put it at glennbeck.com, and it says, hey, dear pastor, we want you to talk about these things. We, the undersigned, want you to talk about these things. And we know they'll probably be controversial with some. We know there'll be some people that'll say, I don't want to. But we've given you this survey that shows that this 80%, 90% of church-going people want to hear. And so we're part of that 90%. And we have your back. I think it's really important, instead of threatening and say, we're a walk, if you don't, we'll go find a church who will talk about these things. I think it's more important to say, we have your back. How can we help you? How can we stand as a sentinel around you? Because we know you're going to get attacked.
When we started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, I started asking pastors, what would it take to get other pastors to stand up and say, they need to know somebody's got their back. That's the #1 thing. They need to know that when they get attacked from the front by that 9%, that the 91% is behind them. If they turn around and there's nobody there, then the 9% win. So they need to know
they need to know. We need to surround them. We need them to know that they're not alone. And if they're going in a different direction, yes, that they are alone. That there's a lot of people here. You cannot be quiet, and you cannot be people of non-action anymore. No more complacency. I will not comply. You don't answer to man. You don't answer to kings. You answer to God, and He's not going to hold you blameless. David, we'll talk to you again.
Absolutely.
Back in just a second.